They called it America's machine gun cruiser for a reason. A warship that didn't fire like a cruiser, it roared like a floating machine gun nest. 16 5-inch guns, firing so fast and so relentlessly that Japanese pilots swore the sky around it turned into a wall of metal. Some even said it felt like flying into a hurricane made of fire. Tonight, that hurricane is waiting. The sea is calm. The moon is high. And somewhere beyond the horizon, a squadron of Japanese pilots is racing toward the American fleet, straight toward the ship that has already earned a reputation as a pilot killer. To the Americans aboard, she is USS Atlanta. To the Japanese, she is the cruiser that spits machine gun lightning. And this is the night their worlds collide. The deck of the USS Atlanta glistens with salty mist as Seaman First Class Robert Keller runs his hand across the railing. It vibrates softly, like a sleeping animal waiting to wake. He has served aboard the ship for 4 months, and he still cannot get used to the sound. The constant clatter of ammunition belts, the steam hiss from hydraulic loaders, the metallic echo of gunners checking breeches. The Atlanta never rests. Even when the crew sleeps, the guns breathe. From the bridge, Lieutenant Commander Harris scans the dark sky through binoculars. Nothing yet. Only the long stretch of quiet ocean, broken by a distant glimmer of starlight. But he knows quiet is the enemy. Quiet means something is coming. Below deck, loaders stack 5-inch shells into steel racks, heavy, cold, each round tall as a man's forearm. Keller feels the sweat on his palms as he checks the feed tray for the forward turret. His heartbeat syncs with the dull hum of the ship's engines. Tonight feels wrong. Too still. Too perfect. Across the ocean in the cold night air, Petty Officer Masato Kuroda grips the stick of his Mitsubishi A6M0. His gloves are thin. He feels every vibration of the engine. The formation around him flies in a tight V, their silhouettes black against the moonlit clouds. He hears only the drone of engines and the whisper of wind cutting past the canopy. They have trained for this. They have rehearsed every step. But Kuroda's stomach still knots with the same question every pilot secretly fears. Will I return? The mission brief was simple. Strike the American cruisers at night, slip past their destroyers, cripple their guns before dawn. Simple except for the one ship every pilot had heard about. Kuroda glances at his wingman, Sato, whose eyes are fixed forward, expression unreadable. They both know the stories. A single American cruiser firing as if it carries an entire battalion of machine guns. A ship whose gunners move so fast that some pilots swear it doesn't fight like a vessel, it fights like a creature. Kuroda breathes out slowly. Fear is normal. Fear means he's still alive. Back aboard the Atlanta, Keller wipes sweat from his brow despite the cool night. He slaps a new shell into the loader and locks it with a hard metallic click. The smell of oil and warm steel fills the turret. Around him, the crew moves with rehearsed precision. Hands, levers, belts, loaders. Everyone knows their role. Everyone knows that one mistake tonight could mean the ship never sees sunrise. A faint buzz echoes from above deck. At first, it's almost nothing, a soft vibration in the air, too light to be wind, too steady to be waves. Keller freezes, the others hear it too. Heads turn, someone curses under their breath. Commander Harris lowers his binoculars slowly. There it is again, not wind, not sea, engines. A tension snaps across the ship like an electric shock. Gunners scramble to stations. Spotters sprint toward the forward rangefinder. Officers shout orders that bounce off steel walls like ricochets. Keller feels his chest tighten. The buzz becomes a growl. The growl becomes a roar. Kuroda sees it now, the faint outline of the American fleet emerging from the dark. Black shapes drifting like islands of steel. Searchlights click on, beams sweep the sky. Sato mutters something into the radio, but the transmission crackles. Kuroda swallows hard. One of the ships below begins to move, not forward. Not sideways, it's the guns moving. Turrets rotate in perfect unison as if the ship has awakened. The machine gun cruiser has seen them. Keller hears the loading system lock into place. The gunner shouts, "Ready." And the turret swings, shaking the entire compartment. Keller braces himself. For one last second, the world holds its breath. Then the Atlanta fires. The blast tears open the night. Fire erupts from the barrels like a dozen lightning strikes. The deck shudders as if punched by a giant. Kuroda's cockpit fills with blinding light as the sky explodes with tracer fire, white, red, gold, like a storm of burning needles. He grips the stick tighter. The American cruiser isn't shooting in bursts. It's shooting in waves, relentless, roaring, a machine gun on a monstrous scale. Saito dives left. Kuroda follows. The air shakes around them. From the Atlanta, Keller hears nothing but the thunder of the guns, the rattle of shells ejecting, the shouted commands blending into the roar. The ship is alive, every gun firing, every loader sweating, every man fighting to keep the machine gun cruiser in the fight. And above them the Japanese planes descend, slicing through the burning sky. The battle has begun. The sky fractures into chaos as Kuroda pushes his Zero downward, slicing through a curtain of bright white tracers. The airframe vibrates under the pressure, wings trembling like they might rip clean off. His breath fogs the inside of his canopy, and for a moment he cannot see anything, only fire, streaks, and the blur of death passing inches from his face. He wipes the canopy with the back of his glove, just in time to see a geyser of flak explode directly ahead. He jerks the stick, the Zero twisting violently to the right, the explosion's shockwave slamming the aircraft sideways. His teeth clack together, but he steadies himself. The American cruiser is below, massive, glowing at the edges from its own muzzle flashes. It's firing so rapidly the barrels look molten. Every second, another blast. Every moment, another thunderclap. It feels less like a ship and more like a volcano erupting straight into the sky. Sato's voice crackles through the radio, barely audible over engine whine. Brake right, too much fire. But Kuroda can't brake right. A streak of glowing tracer cuts across that direction. Another burst flares beneath him. Everywhere he looks, the sky is a net of burning threads. He realizes something, small but terrifying. They aren't firing randomly. The Americans are tracking them. Down below, Keller's arms ache from shoving shells into the loading system. Sweat stings his eyes. The turret's interior is hot as a furnace, each blast warming the walls until it feels like they're inside a metal drum being hammered by gods. The gunner yells for another round. Keller slams one forward, spins the locking handle, braces his shoulder. The floor vibrates violently, another turret opening fire in unison. The Atlanta's 16 5-inch guns are firing so fast that Keller can barely keep count. The loaders move like machines, grab, slam, lock, step back, brace. Keller can't help himself. He glances through the narrow vision slit. What he sees hardly seems real. Dozens of Japanese planes dive like shadows with wings. Their engines wail in the night, and the tracers from the Atlanta streak upward in glowing white ropes. One Zero flies straight into a burst of flak, the explosion swallowing it, shredding it into a fireball that tumbles downwards like a dying star. A cheer erupts inside the turret. The gunner roars, "Another one, keep feeding, Keller." He does, his muscles burn, but he forces his arms to keep moving. The ship depends on their speed. Every fraction of a second is life or death. Above, Kuroda feels the shockwave of the exploding Zero. He sees pieces of his countrymen's aircraft shower into the sea. A chill grips him, but he pushes the emotion down. There's no room for grief. He rolls left and descends lower, too low for some of the guns to track. But Atlanta's secondary batteries, the 1-1-inch machine cannons, ignite in a synchronized ripple. It is like flying into a waterfall of sparks. The tracers from these guns come in tight, controlled streams, each burst stitching patterns across the sky like sewing needles made of fire. The air whistles, then screams, then hammers as the rounds tear past his cockpit. Kuroda pulls upward, but the air resists. He feels the plane's engine strain as though begging him to stop. But he refuses to die here, not in the dark. Not like this. He banks harder, cutting between two pillars of tracer fire. The shockwave slams his Zero again, rattling the canopy. Behind him, Sato's aircraft isn't so lucky. Kuroda hears the tearing metal before he sees it. Sato's right wing shreds under a burst of 1-1-inch fire. The aircraft spirals, trailing flames, tumbling out of control. "Sato, pull up." Kuroda yells, knowing full well the radio might not carry the words. The Zero explodes before it hits the water. Kuroda winces as the flash lights up the ocean below. The rage in his chest tightens into something sharp. He pushes forward. The mission must continue. He cannot fail. On the Atlanta's bridge, Commander Harris watches through his binoculars, calling out bearings with clipped precision. 2 incoming zeros, bearing 32. Gunners on the port side adjust 3 degrees. Elevation up 2. Spotters relay the orders. Gunners swing their barrels. The ship moves like a single organism, synchronized by training, adrenaline, and pure survival. Another zero dives low, so low its wingtips nearly skim the water. Tracers chase it. Flak bursts around it, but the pilot is skilled. Harris can see that. He's weaving, rolling, dodging perfectly timed evasions. "That one knows what he's doing," Harris mutters. Keller hears none of this. He only hears the endless firing cycle, the roar of guns that feel like thunder rolling through his bones. Then, the turret jolts hard, hard enough that Keller staggers. "What was that?" He gasps. "Plane hit aft." Someone shouts from outside the turret. It clipped the superstructure. Keller's jaw tightens. The ship groans. Men shout somewhere above, but the turret keeps firing. Keller forces himself back into motion. Above deck, flames flicker briefly where the crashed plane's wreckage burns. Damage control crews rush to douse the fire. Medics carry a wounded sailor, blood trailing behind on the steel deck. Harris grits his teeth. "Keep firing, we hold them here." Kuroda sees the burning crash site from above. His heart pounds harder. The Americans are taking losses, but not enough. The machine gun cruiser is still very much alive. Still firing, still tearing the sky apart. He dives again, angling toward the forward superstructure. The ship's silhouette grows larger. The muzzle flashes become brighter. The tracers become thicker, so thick they almost form solid walls. His eyes widen. They aren't firing slower, they're firing faster. As if the Atlanta has recognized the threat and is responding with fury. Keller wipes sweat with his sleeve. He slams another shell into the loading tray. He barely hears the gun's deafening blast now. He feels it more than hears it, each shockwave punching his ribs like a giant fist. The gunner shouts again. Keller loads. The turret fires. Again, but he sees something changing. The turret begins to shimmer with heat. The barrels glow orange. The smell of burning metal mixes with the oily air. They are pushing the guns to the limit. "Cooling!" Someone yells, but the order is ignored. There is no cooling tonight. There is only survival. Above, Kuroda squeezes the trigger. His Zero's nose guns flare as he sprays the deck of the Atlanta. Bullets spark across steel plating, pinging off armor. He aims for the forward gun director. If he can damage the targeting system, the ship's precision will falter. But the Americans fire back instantly, tracers slicing upward so fast he feels them pass inches from his tail. Then he sees it. A direct hit opportunity. The forward fire control tower is exposed for only a heartbeat, 1 perfect second. Kuroda pulls the stick, angles the shot, aligns the reticle. This is it. The moment pilots train for their entire lives. He fires, bullets tear downward. On the Atlanta, Harris dives as sparks spray across the bridge windows. The glass cracks. The tower shudders. A crewman collapses, clutching his shoulder. "Damage to the fire control tower," someone screams. But the ship keeps shooting. Keller hears none of this, just more shouted orders. "Load, load, keep loading." His arms feel numb now. His shoulders ache. But he keeps pushing, shell after shell after shell. Kuroda pulls up sharply as the deck rushes beneath him. Too close, too fast, but he manages to clear the mast, banking hard into the darkness. Sweat runs down his spine. He knows he hit something, but not enough. He circles for another pass, breathing heavily. Below, the machine gun cruiser readies its next barrage. The battle isn't over. It's only getting worse. The night sky burns. Everywhere Kuroda turns, another column of tracer fire climbs toward him like a living creature trying to swallow his aircraft whole. He pushes the Zero into a steep climb, the engine screeching as it strains against gravity and fear. His gloves slip on the stick. His palms are soaked with sweat. The heat from the muzzle flashes below reflects off his canopy, painting the cockpit orange with every blast. He levels out for a brief moment, just long enough to glance over his shoulder. The American cruiser continues firing without pause, without breath, without mercy. Its guns blaze in perfect rhythm, as if directed by a single will. It looks less like a ship now and more like a fortress of flame. He forces himself to breathe. The mission is not over. Not until he delivers his payload, not until he finds the perfect angle, not until he silences the machine gun cruiser. Down below, the Atlanta trembles with each firing cycle. Keller feels every vibration through the soles of his boots. His arms are numb now, moving on instinct alone. Load, lock, step back, load, lock, step back. His shirt clings to him, soaked with sweat. The turret feels like a furnace. Every blast heats the metal walls until they seem to glow. The gunner's voice cracks from shouting. The loader beside Keller stumbles but catches himself before falling onto the rack of shells. "Don't stop," the gun chief barks. "We stop, we die." Keller doesn't need the reminder. He hears the shriek of aircraft diving outside. He hears bullets ping across the turret roof. He hears the distant cries of wounded men. Every sound reinforces the same truth. Only the guns are keeping them alive. A sudden shock rattles the turret. Dust falls from the ceiling. Keller grips the loading tray, heart hammering. Port side hit. Someone yells through the bulkhead. Minor damage. The turret keeps firing. Above deck, chaos unfolds. Damage control teams race with hoses and extinguishers. Sailors drag wounded men toward the med bay. Officers shout bearings from every direction as new waves of Japanese aircraft descend from the clouds like predatory birds. Commander Harris leans over the navigation table, sweat dripping from his brow. He grips the edge as another explosion rocks the ship. "They're coordinating now," he mutters. "Smart, damn smart. They're coming in pairs, forcing us to split fire." A communications officer shouts. 2 more Zeros approaching from starboard at high speed. Harris grabs the railing. "All starboard batteries concentrate fire. Don't let them get close." But Kuroda is already close. He dives toward the Atlanta again, this time approaching from an angle he hasn't used yet. High, steep, fast. The kind of approach that kills pilots who aren't perfectly aligned. He feels the plane shake. The wind screams around the wings. Clouds streak past like ghosts. His eyes lock onto the Atlanta's forward turret. That's the heart. The rhythm. The monster's throat. He needs to crush it. He rolls the plane slightly to adjust his aim. The ship grows larger. The tracers grow thicker. The air fills with bright white streaks that come so close they light up the cockpit interior. His jaw tightens. Just 1 second. 1 perfect second. That's all he needs. On the Atlanta, Keller hears the pitch of diving aircraft. The sound is unmistakable, a rising whine like a blade slicing the air. "Diver incoming," someone shouts. The turret rotates violently. The gunner shouts for elevation adjustment. Keller braces himself as the gun barrels rise toward the sky. Through the narrow slit, he sees the Zero descending straight at them. Its wings angled, its guns flashing. He sees the round red insignia on its fuselage. He sees the faint silhouette of the pilot inside. It feels like the moment is frozen. Then the turret fires. The blast is so powerful that Keller feels it in his teeth. The recoil slams through the turret. Shell casings clatter across the floor. Smoke fills the air in a thick metallic cloud. Above, Kuroda's vision blurs as the shockwave rocks his aircraft. The muzzle flash blinds him for a heartbeat. His plane jolts, hard like something punched it from below. Warning lights blink across his dashboard, but he keeps the dive steady. He squeezes the trigger. Bullets rain down on the Atlanta in a scatter of sparks. He watches them ricochet off steel plating, glancing off armor, dancing across the deck. But then, one of the bullets finds its mark. It hits the forward rangefinder. The glass shatters, sparks explode across the platform, crewmen dive for cover. The rangefinder's right lens goes dark, cracked, and useless. Harris slams his fist on the railing. "Rangefinder hit, backup crew take over." Below, Keller hears the metallic shriek from above. He feels the entire turret jolt as targeting data falters for a brief second. The gun chief curses. "Manual correction, adjust by feel." The gunner nods, sweat pouring down his face. He grips the wheel tighter. Keller loads another shell. The turret fires. The blast is enormous, so enormous that Kuroda's Zero bucks sharply. A hot flash burns across his canopy as a flak burst detonates dangerously close. The shockwave slams him sideways. His shoulder smashes against the cockpit frame. The Zero spirals for a moment, altitude dropping fast. He fights the controls, teeth gritted. come on, not yet, not now. His plane levels out barely, smoke trails behind him. The engine sputters, a small flame flickers near the cowling before dying out. He glances back at the Atlanta. They hurt him, but not enough. They damaged him, but not enough. They almost killed him, but not enough. The ship is still firing, still roaring, still alive. He circles for another pass, knowing each second brings him closer to death. Back on the Atlanta, Keller slams another shell into the loader. His hands tremble, but he keeps going. The gun chief shouts new orders. The turret shakes violently as the ship turns to bring other batteries into alignment. Keller feels the heat rising. The metal walls shimmer. The barrels glow red. "We're overheating." The assistant loader shouts. The gun chief snarls. "We're overheating when we're dead. Keep firing." Keller's heartbeat thunders in his ears. His muscles scream, but he keeps moving. Load, lock, brace, fire. Above, Kuroda wipes blood from his eyebrow. He doesn't even remember hitting his head, but a thin cut trickles across his temple. He breathes in sharply. One more chance. One more dive. One more shot to kill the machine gun cruiser. He tightens his gloves, adjusts the throttle, rolls the zero into position. The moonlight catches the side of his aircraft, revealing scratches, scorch marks, and holes along the wings. He whispers to himself, "For the Emperor, for my brothers." And he dives, straight toward the Atlanta, straight toward Keller, straight toward destiny. Kuroda's zero hurtles downward like a falling star burning its last light. The wind hammers the canopy. The fuselage groans under the strain. The engine coughs, spits smoke, then roars again as he pushes the throttle to its final limit. Every instrument needle trembles in the red zone. The plane vibrates so violently he can barely keep his eyes open. But the Atlanta is getting closer, closer, closer. Her guns blaze like a storm erupting from the sea. Her barrels flash with orange fire so quickly that the night sky pulses with every shot. The tracers rise toward him in dense sheets, white streaks that slice across the heavens like claws. Kuroda leans forward, both hands gripping the stick. His knuckles turn white. "Just one hit," he whispers to himself. "Just one." Below, Keller slams another shell into the loader with numb fingers. He no longer feels his arms. He only feels the motion, the rhythm. He loads. The turret fires. Shells clatter across the floor. Smoke thickens the air. Each blast shakes the turret like it's about to rip in half. Someone vomits from exhaustion. Someone else collapses onto the shell racks. The gun chief screams at them to get up, but even his voice sounds tired now, raw, ragged, broken. Keller forces himself to keep moving. He hears the engines outside. Louder, angrier, closer. He looks through the vision slit and freezes. The zero is coming straight at them. Not diving near them, not circling, not strafing, coming at them, like a spear thrown from the heavens. The pilot's silhouette is visible through the canopy, calm, steady, determined. Keller's mouth goes dry. Above deck, Commander Harris sees it too. Direct dive, starboard forward, all guns engage now. Spotters scream bearings, gunners swing turrets. Machine cannons burst into life, streaking the sky with lines of fire. The heavy guns elevate fast, too fast, metal whining as the gears strain. But Kuroda is already too deep into the dive. He flies through the first line of tracers. A burst rips across his left wing, fabric tears away, spiraling behind him like burning petals. The zero tilts, but he forces it straight. He flies through another burst. Metal punches through the fuselage. The tail jerks. The cockpit shakes so hard his teeth rattle. Smoke pours behind him like a comet's tail. Still he dives. The Atlanta's guns fire again. A massive flak burst explodes meters from his right. The shockwave slams him sideways. The plane spins wild, uncontrolled. For a moment he sees only darkness and flame. His vision fades at the edges. He shakes his head violently, grits his teeth, pulls the stick, levels the plane. The Atlanta rises into his view again. Close now, huge now, towering like a steel mountain. Keller hears the turret swing. The gunner screams for elevation change. The gun